Welcome back to the Friday Show. I'm Scott Jagow along with Ray Paulick. Glad to have you with us. Big weekend of Kentucky Derby preps. The Derby will be here before you know it, and we'll talk about those preps in a minute. But first, one of the stories that dominated the headlines this week was California Chrome. Last Saturday, he put in a good performance in Dubai, finishing second in a $10 million race. But instead of coming back to the United States, we learned that he's heading to England to race at Royal Ascot in June. And it sparked a lot of debate in the industry. Kind of surprising that there was that much debate. Why do you think this is such a contentious issue, Ray?
Well, he's the horse of the year. California Chrome was a feel-good story last year, and it just doesn't feel quite as good anymore. His owners are fighting. Perry Martin is the majority owner who put out a statement saying why he's going to England. Steve Coburn is not crazy about the idea, neither is trainer Art Sherman. So there's a rift in the ownership ranks, and that's sometimes a good horse will do that.
And it seems to be something about his value as a stallion that's at work here. Last year we did a story pegging it at about $9 million, even though the connections were thinking more like $30 million. Right. So what does this do for his value potentially?
Well, in his statement, Perry Martin essentially said he's managing an asset. And he thinks that by going to England, by possibly winning a race at Royal Ascot, he will increase the value of California Chrome as a stallion prospect without hurting his chance, without hurting his value if he loses. You know, it's kind of having it both ways. But I think the fact of the matter is his value has already been established. It's not going to go up, and it can only go down if they mismanage the horse the rest of the year.
As far as his chances of actually winning at Royal Ascot, you got to consider they run in the opposite direction. The turf courses are way different than they are in California, and the races are run so differently. So, your opinion, does he have any chance at all?
Well, I don't want to say his chances are slim and none, but he is up against it. Those are good horses over there. The training is different. He's got a lot to learn in a short time to get ready for a big race like that.
Well, he did win last year's Kentucky Derby. Let's talk about this year's Kentucky Derby.
As they come to the top of the stretch, and Frosted's looking good.
All right, Ray, let's start with the Wood Memorial, where Frosted is one of the contenders. And we just saw at the top of the stretch in the Fountain of Youth, he looked good. But then it all fell apart. Do you have any idea what happened?
I don't have any idea what happened. Neither does Karen McLaughlin, his trainer. He put blinkers on him for the Fountain of Youth. The horse cruised up to the lead, looked like a winner, and then just absolutely shut down, collapsed, whatever. But he's come out of that race. He's had some brilliant workouts. I like him a lot going into the Wood.
Daredevil out of Todd Pletcher's barn will also be formidable in this race, but I am sticking with El Kabeir. I think he's been a little bit underrated throughout the Derby season. He shows up every race. Last race, he came from way off the pace, showing versatility. It was something he hadn't done before. And I kind of like the story of his jockey, Chuck Lopez, who's 54 years old. Did you realize that? I mean, he's never won a Grade 1 race, so this could be a good story heading into the Kentucky Derby. Let's move on to the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland, where Carpe Diem is likely a heavy favorite. And based on his appearance, I saw him in Pletcher's barn the other day. He should be. He looks great.
Well, there's a lot to like about him. He cost $1,600,000 at the OBS two-year-old sale. Grade 1 winner last year as a two-year-old. He won at Keeneland in the fall. He likes the track. I like to beat the favorite. I just don't know how I can do it here. I think he lays over this field.
I'll throw in one long shot, Classy Class, who had a rough trip in the stretch of the Gotham, so maybe somebody to look at. Out in California, of course, the Santa Anita Derby, Dortmund is favored, and he should be because he's unbeaten. The question is, does he stay undefeated?
I like Prospect Park to beat Dortmund in the San Felipe. He came up a little short. He's a young colt, kind of green, I thought, in that race. Getting better. The extra distance is going to help him, I think. And he's a son of Tappet, just like Frosted in the Wood. This could be a huge day for the Tappets if Prospect Park and Frosted both win.
Well, I'm going with Bolo, who finished third in the San Felipe. He wasn't cranked up for that race. He had a huge gallop out. Mike Smith, the jockey, loves him. And I think as the distance increases, he's going to look even better. And I have a future wager on him, so I'm really happy about that if he can get into the Kentucky Derby. And I just want to remind you that you did say if Bolo won the Kentucky Derby, you would wear a Bolo tie at the Preakness.
I may have to bring out the cowboy gear then for the Preakness this year.
But we're heading to the final moments of the Kentucky Derby prep season, and there's been some talk about it being lackluster. Do you agree with that?
Well, there's a lot of quality, I think. When you go around the country, every one of these big prep races has a top class horse in it, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of depth. We've got short fields at the Santa Anita Derby, and the Wood and the Bluegrass are not particularly deep. And last week's Florida Derby, there were really only 3 horses that had a shot of winning. So the quality's there. I just don't think the depth is there.
Yeah, but I'm still starting to feel the fever. It's getting closer, and we'll watch that build over the next few weeks. That is it for today's edition of the Friday Show. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.